for all of the rightful scholars that have passed away, for all of the marhumeen of everyone in this gathering, and for all those who have no one to recite the Fatiha for them. Bismillah. For the hastening of the reappearance of our beloved Imam, please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that we may be among his true followers, his true lovers, and his true companions, please recite the second one louder. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And as an invitation to the beloved Imam of our time and the Shuhada to this humble gathering of ours, please recite the third one the loudest. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا شفيع ذنوبنا أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين المنتجبين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. قال سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please recite another salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. We recognize the three factors that allow for us to be successful when it comes to being not just an audience supporting the front of Haqq, but also participants within it. Those three factors that we mentioned were basira, sabr, and the most important, wilaya. Basira is a way for us to understand the truth, where we are supposed to be attached to, and sabr is how we remain steadfast upon that understanding. But ultimately, both of these go under the concept of wilaya, the actual attachment that we're supposed to have, who we're supposed to have it with, what's the nature of that attachment. All of those discussions we have had. Yesterday we were looking at horizontal wilaya, and we mentioned the importance of horizontal wilaya coming down to one main point. It is the best and quickest and most sure way to get to those who have authority over us. Without this horizontal wilaya, we saw that it may not even be possible to get to the wali, the one that we're supposed to be attached with. There's a beautiful verse, Surah Hujurat, verse number 10. إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. Without doubt, the believers are brothers of one another. So then make peace and harmony between your brothers and have consciousness of Allah so that maybe He will show you mercy. Our teachers over here mentioned this last part, so that maybe He will show you mercy, is a reference to the faraj, the return of the Imam. What could be more merciful from the side of Allah than to send the Imam back to us? How do we attain it? As the verse mentioned, by strengthening and building and supporting the relationships that exist with our brothers. The whole concept of akhuwa, which deserves a whole ashra within itself. This horizontal wilayah. We have many things in our religion which point us towards the importance of the collective. For example, Hajj, Wajib, everyone from all over the world gathers in one place. Shia or Sunni, everyone is there. All of the a'mal of Hajj itself, yes, you do them as an individual, but you're there as a collective. Unfortunately, Hajj has been reduced down to this very materialistic, spiritual-less form by the authorities that have occupied the lands of the Prophet. But in reality, the philosophy of Hajj is within the collective being together. Aside from that, we have the congregational prayers, the daily prayers which we are recommended to pray together. Unfortunately, we find that many of the Shia communities are lacking in this, whether it's because of resources or interest or just number of people available. But very few centers are actually open for congregational prayers throughout the year. That doesn't make it less important. Congregational prayers are so important that our scholars tell us, if you are to pray salah by yourself with complete presence of the heart, following all of the mustahabat, that prayer is still not equal to praying in jama'ah without presence of heart. The difference, why such a heavy difference between the two? Why is that being pointed out to us? To show us the importance of the congregation. To show us the importance of the congregation. Our resident scholar in South London, he gives a very nice example, and if I'm not mistaken, this example may be from a narration. He says, how many things can you do with one finger? You can maybe press a button, you can touch something, but that's it. How many things can you do with a finger and thumb? Right, you can start picking things up, there's a few more things that you can do. With 3 fingers, 4 fingers, then 5 fingers with a whole hand. Right, how many things can you do with a whole hand? Now increase that to 10 fingers. With 10 fingers, what can you not do? You can't even think about, you can't even calculate the amount of things you can do with 10 fingers. That extra thawab is written. For 3 people, more thawab is written. For 5 people, more thawab is written. And they say that if 10 people are a part of the congregation, there is so much reward that it's not calculable. Why are we being told of this? Again, remember what we said earlier. If you see anything which has a lot of thawab in it, understand it is pointing you towards something incredibly important. As a Shia community for whom, as I mentioned, wilayah is a part of our nature. You take away wilayah from the Shia and we will cease to exist. We exist and we survived because of wilayah. This congregational prayers allows you to practice both horizontal wilayah with the mu'mineen that are around you, and also vertical wilayah. With who? The prayer leader. And as a point of fiqh, it's important to mention, we have congregational prayers over here. You cannot go into sujood before the imam has gone into sujood. You cannot come up before the imam has come up. You cannot go into ruku before the imam has gone into ruku. It is so important to keep this in mind, because the moment we do that, what happens? We are no longer part of the congregation. You're praying your salah for other. and that thawab will not be written for you. Why? Why? Because Allah wants you to practice this wilayah. We also have a habit of the person who's leading the prayers. They say Takbirat al-Ihram, then you have one person say Takbirat al-Ihram, and then maybe 4 others say it, then maybe 6 others say it, and just before going into ruku, you have a few people saying it as well. It's like, no, the discipline needs to be seen. That horizontal wilayah needs to be seen, where you have Takbirat al-Ihram, and then as quickly as possible, the rest of the congregation also responds and begins their salah. It's not, I am starting my jama'ah whenever I want. No, it's you are starting your jama'ah with the jama'ah. It's important for us to keep that in mind. In fact, when we look at the narrations about the importance of salah, I don't need to go through them with you, but for example, if your salah is accepted, all your other acts are accepted. What does that sound like? If you have wilayah, everything else is accepted. What's the connection? Salah is the place where you can practice that wilayah. Even when you're on your own, you are still practicing that wilayah. You're submitting yourself in front of Allah. But it points towards something that is incredibly important. Do not see your salah as just these individual kind of acts which are not really connected. Every salah that you recite in congregation is a step of that collective towards the Imam. Every single time. That collective is a changed collective. That collective is a changed collective. It's no longer the same distance away from the Imam as before that prayer took place. That's how important this congregation is. Ayatollah Jawadi Amali, he says, if someone is not able to carry out a service for others that will bring their hearts closer to the religion due to becoming tired of doing mustahab acts, it is forbidden for them to do those mustahab acts. Forbidden. Think of all of the reward of Salat al-Layl. All of the reward of Salat al-Layl. And inshallah we don't use this as an excuse not to pray Salat al-Layl. But that means that if by praying Salat al-Layl, you will not be able to get up in the morning and help other mu'mineen, for example, then don't pray that Salat al-Layl. Service of others, that strengthening of horizontal wilayah is so important. At the same time, do not deliberately make a schedule in which you're going to have a Salat al-Layl which will tire you out as well. No, okay, work around it. Figure out what you need to do with your sleep. Figure out what you need to do with your eating habits that will help you attain both things. Imagine someone who prays Salat al-Layl and then helps others as well. Atullah Lankarani, heavyweight, marhum, he passed away, one of the contemporary scholars, someone who had spent decades in the hawza. 70, 80 years he had spent in the hawza. On his deathbed, imagine, this is the summary of his 80 years of study. On his deathbed, he said, I entered the hawza because I wanted to find out what is the best act someone can do. The act which has the most thawab. After 80 years of hawza, what does he say? He said the best act someone can do is to be of service to another. To be of service to another. He could have said the best act that you can do is to be of service to the Imam. He didn't. He said to be of service to others, because these scholars realized through these verses And through these narrations, if you want to get to the Imam, it has to be through the mu'mineen. Has to be through the mu'mineen. Ibn Ahyan says 2 groups of people will be told to go away by the Imam. One group that knows how to do work, but not as a collective, and another group that's a collective but doesn't know how to do work. The collective is important, and of course, you being someone is also important, but the collective is incredibly important. So I wanted to mention some of those stories and sayings of our scholars to end our discussion on horizontal wilayah. However, as you have probably noticed, there's nothing in this journey that we've been on that is not connected. So we want to speak about basira. We'll take today as an introduction to basira, and hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to expand on it further. Today is another Friday that's gone by. Another Friday, especially in the first 10 days of Muharram, where we've not had the return of the Imam. I thought it would be important to mention a few points regarding waiting for the Imam, and it connects very strongly with our discussion as well, so it's not too off topic. There's a narration that Mufaddal gets to us, and he narrates this from Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam. For the interest of time, I will go through these quickly, but I'll highlight the important points regarding our discussion. Man mata muntadhiran lihadha al-amr kaman kana ma'al qa'im fi fustatih. Anyone who dies waiting for this amr, meaning the dhuhr, it is as if they are standing with the Imam in his tent. Anyone who dies waiting for this amr, it's as if they are standing with the Imam in their tent. In fact, it is as if they are fighting under the command of the Prophet with their sword. This is the importance of waiting. Intidar. We want that attachment with the Imam. We have to be in a state of intidar. Again, I wish we had time to open up what that state is. I'll just hint towards the correct understanding of it. We have a narration that says, the best of deeds is the act of intidar. Afdalul a'mal intidarul faraj. Afdalul a'mal, the best of actions is waiting for the faraj. It doesn't say Afdalul hal, the best state you can be in is waiting for the faraj. What does that mean? Intidar is not a state you're supposed to be in. Intidar is something you do, it's an action. Just take that as a hint of what intidar is. So if we want to be alongside the camp of Abu Abdullah, we can be alongside him with our sword fighting. This narration says if you're in that state, it's as if you're with the Prophet with your sword, fighting alongside him. There's another narration. This is from the Battle of Nahrawan. This narration brings chills to this heart. Amir al-Mu'mineen speaking at the Battle of Nahrawan. Please recite salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One of the companions, Hakam, said, when Amir al-Mu'mineen killed the Khawarij on the day of Nahrawan, a man stood up to him and said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, glad tidings to us that we were present with you in this situation and we killed these Khawarij along with you. Amir al-Mu'mineen replies, by the one who split the grain and created the soul. He starts off his response by swearing to Allah. Meaning what? What I'm about to say is not something small. What I'm about to say, unless I would not have sworn on Allah, even you may have doubted it. By the one who split the grain and created the soul. Indeed, in this very situation, there are people who are present with us, whom Allah has not yet created. Not only that, Allah has not yet created their fathers or their grandfathers. The man said, how can people be present with us who have not yet been created? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, they will share with us in what we are engaged in, and they will be the ones who have submitted to us. Who are they? فَأُولَٰئِكَ شُرَكَاؤُنَا فِيمَا كُنَّا فِيهِ حَقًّا حَقًّا. They are our partners in what we are engaged in, truly, truly. These are those in the, what is Amir al-Mu'mineen opening the door to? He's opening the door to us. He's opening the door to us. We can be in Badr and Uhud and Khandaq. We can be there in Jamal and Siffin and Nahrawan. We can be there in Karbala. We can be there in Karbala. Amir al-Mu'mineen saw us. He said there are people in this situation that are partners with us in what we do. That are partners with us in what we do. God forbid we don't see the dhuhur of the Imam. If we are among those who are truly waiting, Amir al-Mu'mineen has opened the doors for us to traverse time and space. Even if the zuhur is to come after us, we will be there alongside the Imam. And God forbid if we are not those who fulfill all of the conditions that we mentioned in the previous night, even if the zuhur happens, we won't be a part of it. Abu Khalid, one of the closest companions of our beloved fourth Imam, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. He says to Abu Khalid, "Oh Abu Khalid, indeed the people of the time of the return, those who affirm his imamate and are awaiting his appearance, are the most virtuous of the people of every age." Of every age. And our scholars tell us this includes more virtuous than the people who will exist after the dhuhr, or during the time of the dhuhr. The ones who are there before it, in the end times, they're the most virtuous. Why? Because Allah, exalted is His remembrance, has granted them from understanding, comprehension and knowledge such that the occultation in their regard has become like direct witnessing. These individuals, for them, the occultation makes no difference. It's as if they witnessed the Imam. Meaning what? Think about our state. I can speak for myself. When the Imam comes back, how beautiful it will be to recite Salah. How beautiful it will be to recite the Quran. The people that the Imam is talking about right now, they have reached such a state that their Quran will be exactly the same for them before and after the occultation. Why? Because they live as if they witnessed the Imam in front of them. That is the level that we're aiming to reach. And this points us towards our topic. Why? What did the Imam say? Allah has granted them from understanding, comprehension, and knowledge. This is Basira. Basira being a necessary tool for us to have the wali, to have that attachment with the wali. And he has placed them in that time in the rank of those who fought with the sword alongside the Messenger of Allah. Again, hinting to us that other narration. Those are the ones who are truly sincere and truly our Shia, and those who call to the religion of Allah, the mighty, the majestic, secretly and openly. So when they're within their close circles and when they're out in public, they are ambassadors of the religion. Please recite the salawat. The last narration regarding this. And again, see this all as an introduction to Basira. This is all the importance of Basira. The Prophet said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, know that the best of people surely are the people who will be in the last days. They were not present to see the Prophet, and the Hujjah will be concealed from them, yet they believe in the black and white, referring to they will read about us, they will read about Islam, they will read about the Imams, and they will believe. Imagine the Prophet is saying to the Imam, they will be the best of people. Look at the signs around us. There's almost somewhat of a consensus that we are the people of the last days. At the very least, because we are the people of the 12th Imam. At the very least. Now whether Akhir al-Zaman, like the end of Akhir al-Zaman takes 5 days, whether it takes 5 months or 5 years or 50 years, we don't know. But there's a consensus that we fit somewhere over here, the Akhir al-Zaman. Imagine the Prophet is almost giving this tasalli to Amir al-Mu'mineen, that don't worry, the best of people will have so much faith in us that they wouldn't even need to see us. They wouldn't need to hear us. They would read about us and they will believe. But what is this pointing towards? It's pointing towards people who read. It's pointing towards people who think, who contemplate. The Prophet could have pointed towards anything else, but he specifically pointed towards the black and white. We have to be people of Basira if we want to be attached to this front of Haq. And the madlumiyah of the Ahlul Bayt comes from this lack of Basira. If the Imam of our time looks upon this gathering and God forbid they do not find anyone with the capacity to build a relationship with, how would they feel? We have an example of this in history. This is such a painful story to listen to. Think about the Madlumiyah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Everything he went through. From Lady Zahra sallallahu alayha, his right being taken, her right being taken. Please recite salawat. The loneliness he had to feel when people would not complain about the right being taken away, but they would complain and say, tell her to either cry during the day or the night, because we can't rest. That is the madlumi of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Kumail narrates this. Kumail, the famous Kumail, Dua Kumail. He narrates this. He says, one night, the commander of the faithful took my hand and led me out of the city. Look at the madlumiyah. Which city? This is the city that he is governing. He took my hand and took me out of the city. When we reached the open desert, he said, Amir al-Mu'mineen let out a deep sigh. Then he said, Amir al-Mu'mineen pointed with his hand to his blessed chest. And he said, within this chest of mine is a great store of knowledge. If only I could find those who would carry its burden. He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen continues, yes, I find sharp-minded people, but they cannot be trusted. They use religion as a means for material goals, boasting before the servants of Allah and His friends with the blessings of God and His arguments showing off. Inshallah, that is not us. Another group are those who are submissive and obedient to the standard bearers of truth. So they submit, they are obedient. But why is Amir al-Mu'mineen still upset? But they lack the necessary depth of understanding. At the first doubt that arises, the fire of uncertainty blazes up in their hearts. Neither this group nor that group are fit to be entrusted with learning these secrets. And Amir al-Mu'mineen is left alone. That is what we can reduce the Imam of our time down to. Where he has to find that one or two companions that are his Ashab al-Thir, and then he goes to them and then he complains to them about that. And in this day and age, they can't even tell us that they met the Imam and they saw the Imam crying at our state. And that is why I've come and I'm trying to teach you something. I'm trying to build your capacity. That's who our Maraji are. That's who our leadership is. You think our beloved Sayyid who was Shaheed, you think Sayyid al-Qa'id didn't have anything better to do but to come every other day and give speeches in which they explain the positions from the Quran, from the Ahadith, but no, when we want to change the hearts and minds of other people, what do? This is the position, believe it or you are. Our job is to have basira, and our job is to increase the basira in everyone else. Otherwise, if this person who may now accept your position has not got there through deep contemplation and thinking, Amir al-Mu'mineen has made it clear they're not worthy of his secrets. They're going to be rejected. We want them to believe our positions because they understand. Hang on a second. God forbid, the reason why we're not doing that is because we ourselves have not understood. We ourselves have not thought about the positions that we hold. What is basira? There are two words that come to mind. One is sight, the other is insight in English. Basira comes from basar, right? Which literally means to see. But in Arabic, when that's used, it's a reference to literally what you can see with your eyes. So it's the material world that you can see around you with your eyes. Basira is to see beyond the apparent. Basira is to see beyond the apparent, right? So I don't know what would be a good translation for that in English. You can say insight, you can say foresight. There are issues in both of those. Basira, right? to see beyond the apparent. Who is someone who can see? Nahj al-Balagh. Amir al-Mu'mineen says in sermon number 153, indeed the one who truly sees is he who hears and then reflects, he who looks and then perceives, who benefits from lessons and then takes a clear open path, avoiding the pitfalls of ruin and the misguidance of hidden traps. Makes it very clear that it's got nothing to do with these eyes or these ears. If you are hearing but you are not contemplating, if you are seeing but you are not perceiving, that is not someone who truly sees. As the narration states, the one who truly sees is what we mentioned. There's a quote from Imam Khomeini. He says, a human is a human because of their ruh, because of their basira. We have commonalities with animals in that we have ears, they have ears. We have eyes, they have eyes. We have legs, they have legs. However, none of those things make you human. That which separates humans from other creations is their heart. It is their basira. If someone has this, they are human. Abu Jahl had eyes, but he was not human. Did Shimr not have eyes? Could he not see what he was doing? Basira. So important. Imam Khomeini continues, there are some who do not have eyes in this world, but see better than those that do. I wanted to mention another story over here, but inshallah we will leave that for tomorrow. When we are going to speak about basira, what are the things that we need to touch on? I'll say this as a list, and then we will try and open it as best as we can in the coming days. Who are the people of Haqq? Basira helps us understand who are the people of Haqq. What are the positions that they hold? What are their strategies? Then on the other hand, Basira helps us to understand who are the people of Batil. What are their positions and what are their strategies? We want to look at, Sayyid al-Qaid says, Basira is sifting through what is primary and what is secondary. Right? What does that mean? Who is a primary friend and who's a secondary friend? Who's a primary enemy and who's a secondary enemy? Will you treat the primary friends like you treat the secondary friends? Would you treat the primary enemy like you treat the secondary enemy? And so on and so forth. Right? So we need to look at these discussions. What is your primary responsibility and what is your secondary responsibility? These things need to be understood. If we don't understand who the people of Haqq are, and we don't understand what strategies they use, God forbid, we can also become those who, for example, when our second Imam signed that treaty, what did they say? Not the people of the camp of Muawiyah, the people of his own camp said, you are the one who has humiliated the mu'mineen. You are the humiliator of the mu'mineen. God forbid we reach that. They would say he's done this for money. Imagine. Why? They don't understand, but that's how big of a mistake you can make. A story comes to mind where after the treaty was signed, unfortunately in these nights we won't have time to go into the details of that treaty, but once the treaty was signed, one of the things that was supposed to happen, which even that wasn't fulfilled properly, was Muawiyah was supposed to give the share of his wealth to the different tribes that had been affected. Of course, one of them being Bani Hashim. Now there was a period of 3 days over which different tribes came and they took their money. You have to understand, even in these situations, the Imam did not let us forget, primarily as Muslims, we reject the non-divine. So if due to maslahah, a treaty has been signed, that doesn't mean you jump from treaty being signed to then, na'udhu licking the boots of the oppressors. There's 100 things in the middle. Muawiyah said 3 days. When do you think our second Imam went? Was he the first in line? He went right at the end. He was the last person. Now Muawiyah said that I know why he's doing this. He's doing this because if he comes at the end, we won't have any money left, and then he'll tell the people, oh, look how bakhil Muawiyah is. I'm not going to let him do that. So the most amount of money he kept aside for Banu Hashim. So we're going to keep this aside and we'll give everyone else whatever they do. At the end, our second Imam comes. And our second Imam comes and Muawiyah says, you finally come. Thinking that he's just outsmarted the Imam. You finally come. And he tells one of his slaves to bring the bag of gold. Say the bag of gold was so heavy, the bag of coins was so heavy, that the poor slave, he had it on his back and he was bending down as a result, and he brought it. Our second Imam is looking at this slave. He doesn't even look at Muawiyah. All of these little things are important. All of these little things are important. If you know these little things, then you will know what the position of the Imam is. He's looking at this slave. He doesn't even look at Muawiyah. What does Muawiyah say? Muawiyah says, I am Muawiyah, the son of Hinda. Here you go. Take this. It's as if the Imam didn't even hear what Muawiyah said. He looked at the slave and said to him that he saw the sweat coming from his face. He saw he was tired. And he said to the slave, how much would you like this gold? And the slave, he didn't dare to respond, but he nodded. And the Imam replied, I am Hassan, son of Fatima, it's all yours. He did this for money. He humiliated the mu'mineen. You have not understood the resistance of the Ahlul Bayt. You have not understood the primary position of the Ahlul Bayt, which was Tawheed, the rejection of the non-divine and going towards the divine. I mentioned this, sometimes to just do stuff, we use Sayyid al-Shuhada. Sometimes to stay quiet, we use Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. Sometimes to do stuff, we use Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battles. Sometimes to stay quiet, we use Amir al-Mu'mineen in the first 25 years. Without basira, you will not understand what the Imam wants you to do. First and foremostly, at least till now, what I can say is, inshallah, we have understood the primary position of the Ahlul Bayt was Tawheed, the negation of the non-divine, going towards the divine. So if you see them do something which in the apparent doesn't look like that, then don't straight away be like, oh, therefore we don't have to negate the non-divine. No. You have to understand what is it that is making them do that, and then learn from it what your responsibility is. But inshallah, we will actually go into specific examples tomorrow. Basira leads to loyalty. Basira leads to loyalty. If you have basira, you've understood haq, you've understood what is batil, you would never fall in, and you know the traps of the enemy, you would never fall into those traps. Basira leads to you being loyal. What did we say? Amir al-Mu'mineen said, لا يحمل هذا العلم إلا أهل البصر والصبر. No one can carry this flag unless they have basira and they have sabr. It's as if Amir al-Mu'mineen was looking at Abbas when he said this. He knew who has the basira and who has the sabr to show the whole world how to stay loyal and keep holding the flag. And where did Abbas learn this loyalty from? We cannot mention Abbas tonight and not mention al-Banin. There are two places where we see al-Banin show us what loyalty is. The first is when the caravan was leaving and all the women and those who are going to stay behind were saying farewell. They came to al-Banin and said, after bidding farewell, they came to al-Banin and said, why did you stay in the tent? Why didn't you go and bid farewell to Hazrat Abbas, to Abbas, your son? We know how much you love him. Look at the loyalty of al-Banin. What does she say? She said, I was afraid Hussein would see me hug my son and he would miss his mother. This is where Abbas learned his loyalty from. After Ashura, after Karbala, after everything had happened, the caravan returns to Medina. A message comes to Lady Zainab that al-Banin wants to meet you. In response, Zainab says, I only sacrificed my 2 sons. Banin sacrificed her 4 children in Karbala. I will go to visit her. Lady Zainab goes to visit her. Look at the loyalty of Banin. Lady Zainab goes to visit her. And she tells her everything. Lady Zainab tells her everything that happened in Karbala. When she gets to the Masa'ib of Hazrat Abbas, Lady Zainab begins to cry out loudly. She starts saying, Wa akha, wa akha, wa Abbasa, wa Abbasa. Look at the loyalty of al-Banin. Lady Zainab's talking about her son. What does she respond? Wa Mawla, wa Mawla, wa Husayna, wa Husayna. This is the loyalty of al-Banin. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya Abul Fadl al-Abbas, ya Qamar Bani Hashim. अजीज़ान मुहतरम, आज 8 मुहर्रम है और 9 मुहर्रम की शब लगने वाली है। पता भी नहीं चला ये दिन कितनी जल्दी से गुजर गया। सच है कि जो हक अदा करना था, जो आंसू बहाने थे, वो हक पूरा अदा नहीं कर सके। लेकिन जिसके आज मसाइब पढ़ने हैं, हक बनता है कि उनके ऊपर हम लोग जितना रो सकें वो। क्यों? रिवायतों में बार बार आया है कि हुसैन अब्बास के ऊपर कितना रोए। आज अब्बास की रात है। वो अब्बास जो ऐसा लगता है कि अली ने करबला के लिए मांगा। ऐसी वफादारी थी, कभी भी ना हसन का साथ छोड़ा ना हुसैन का। روایتوں میں آتا ہے کہ جناب عباس سائے کی طرح مولا حسن اور مولا حسین کے تھوڑا سا پیچھے چلتے، اور لوگ کہتے تھے کہ کتنے خوش نصیب ہے حسن اور حسین، ایسا غلام ملا۔ عاشورے کے دن ایک وقت ایسا آیا کہ جناب عباس دیکھتے ہیں اور کوئی نہیں نظر آتا، صرف حسین اکیلے صحرا میں کھڑے ہوئے۔ وہ مولا کے پاس جاتے ہیں اور کہتے ہیں مولا اجازت دیں مجھے میدان میں جانے۔ روایتوں میں ہے کہ جب جناب عباس نے یہ کہا فَبَكَى الْحُسَيْنُ بُكَاءً شَدِيدًا، مولا حسین زور زور سے رونے لگے، ایسے جیسے ان کو پتا تھا کہ یہ وقت آنا ہے۔ مولا جواب میں کہتے ہیں یا اخی، میرے بھائی، تم میرے لشکر کے علمدار ہو، اگر تم چلے جاؤ گے تو پھر میرا پورا لشکر بکھر جائے گا۔ شاید عباس نے ایک طرف دیکھا ہوگا، نہ زہیر نظر آئے، نہ بریر نظر آئے، نہ حبیب نظر آئے۔ شاید مولا عباس نے دوسری طرف دیکھا ہوگا، نہ اونو محمد نظر آئے، نہ قاسم نظر آئے، نہ علی اکبر۔ علماء کہتے ہیں کہ عباس نے جواب میں کہا وہ لشکر کہاں ہے جس کا میں علمدار۔ پھر عباس کہتے ہیں مقتل کے جملے ہیں کہ میرا سینہ گھٹنے لگا، یعنی ایسے لگ رہا ہے جیسے سینہ بھاری ہونے لگا۔ سوچیں عباس کو تھوڑے سے سخت جملے پورا کیا لیکن میں حسین کا غلام، مشکیزہ پانی